Welcome to Let's Get Crafty with
Betty
and Nina.
Hi, Crafty Besties. Today we're in Phoenix, Arizona at Spellbinders headquarters to interview Denzel. Wait, is it Denzil or Denzel?
Denzil.
Denzel. I'm saying it right.
Denzel.
Denzel?
No, he's not Denzel.
I said it right. Denzel.
She's got it.
Oh, I'm so confused.
Denzel has an Oscar, a lot more money. He's better looking, but we're both bald.
All right, tell us what your official title here is at Spellbinders.
My official title is VP of Business Development, which sounds very fancy, but I'm not really that fancy.
What does that mean? You get to do what you want.
I get to do it. I go to all of our colleagues, and to say, what do you think about this crazy idea? Or they come to me with a crazy idea and say, what about a crazy idea? And I'll say, that's a good idea, and let's make it happen. So we come up, what I really focus on are like new relationships, because our craft industry is all about relationships,
yes.
Right? And then new products, like development, like taking ideas, concepts that, we have and bringing them to life. And so, like, if you think about it, like when I started in this, and I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit later, but what we do at Spellbinders really is take a lot of like industrial processes like die cutting and foiling and embossing and letterpress, things that are done on huge machinery, and we've downsized it so it's on a table. So like, how do you take it from a press that's as big as a room and put it on your tabletop? So we try to do those kind of things, and that's what we do.
And we appreciate it because our craft rooms are full of it.
Yeah,
we love it.
Yeah, so it's fun.
Keep it up.
It's great. It's good stuff.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your history and how you got into scrapbooking and card making. Like, this is a really niche industry, and how did you get here?
It's a niche industry. It's a weird story. So it's, well, first, I think, it's like core kind of beliefs. We all have our own each individual core beliefs. So, like, my parents grew up really poor. They were in West Virginia. Their heritage were coal miners and stuff. And so they did, when they moved to Ohio, was the big city, basically, And so my mom did like a lot of food making and canning and all that kind of stuff. But my Aunt Wilma, who I was very, very close with, lived down the road. And she was a crafter. So she did a lot of sewing of the jeans. And, crafting, like, we think of crafting as a hobby and a business and a passion. Most of our customers do it as a hobby and as a passion, but it was really a way of life, for a lot of people. So crafting came out of necessity. If you think about repurposing cards to be projects and repurposing pants to fit your previous sibling, they would, have to alter the pants and clothes. Hand-me-downs and all of that kind of stuff. So crafting really is more of a necessity that grew into something in modern times. Now we do it as a passion and as a hobby, but we still have to do stuff with our hands, right? So that's kind of where I always had an appreciation for what she did and stuff. And my history was with photography. So after high school, I went to the Navy, and then I went to college for photography. And I loved photography. I was a decent photographer. I wasn't a great photographer, but I also loved the cameras as much as I loved the photography itself. So, I was in the photo industry, and I was a buyer for a chain of camera stores that then started doing scrapbooking in the 90s. And then
the boom during the big boom,
yeah. So we had 40 camera stores in Ohio and Indiana and the Midwest. It was a big company, and then we I helped get them into scrapbooking, and so back then, so we actually we had this album. This funny, I think I mentioned this before. So we had this album. It was called, it was Webway was the company, and it was a 12 by 12 strap hinge album.
12 by 12.
12 by 12. And you're not a 12 by 12 girl.
That is the number of my people is 12 by 12.
Yeah. Yeah, so
She will not do anything else. No mini albums.
mini
12 by 12.
Yeah, mini albums are for amateurs, right?
Thank you. I appreciate this. I appreciate this word.
It was a 12 by 12 strap hinge album. Okay. So it was our number one best-selling album in the whole company. And so I went to reorder it with the manufacturer, and they sent me a note back, said it's been discontinued. And I was like, what? How? That was the number one selling album. So what we did is I picked up the phone and I called the guy and I said, hey, how did you discontinue the number one selling album? And he said, well, we're part of another company, so their Webway is the retail division, which we bought from. And then they had this other division called Creative Memories. I was like, who's Creative Memories? Never heard of these guys. And like, how could they sell more than we are? And he's like, well, they're like a $200 million business.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'd never even heard of them. And this was, in the early 90s, like 94-ish, something like that. And so, so we started checking them out, and I was talking about it in one of our meetings, and one of the store managers, his wife happened to be a consultant or whatever so she did the Creative Memories party.
Because they did like Tupperware parties. They have like groups.
Yeah, were you never a Creative Memories consultant?
I was born
I was a Creative
I did to be my child.
Yeah. No, it was my thing. You had like Tupperware parties. You would come over. You would teach
bring
people how to make a
pictures
layout or use the punches. They had all the punches.
Yeah.
And
that sounds like a great time. I think.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, so it was a thing.
It was totally a thing.
And they're still around, I believe. I think they had some issues for a while, but I think they're still around. So that like was the red light. Like, hey, there's something else out there, besides retail. I didn't even know about it. And there's something out there that people are doing with their pictures instead of just putting them in an album. They're actually decorating and embellishing. So we started to look at things and check out that market. And we were out west for a photo trade show. And me and my boss at the time, we decided to go to a couple scrapbook stores. So we went to a couple scrapbook stores when we were at a convention. And we came back, and, it was Cord Cameras where I worked. And so we came back, and we had this meeting, and it's like 20 guys and one woman around a table. And, we had to wear suits and everything. So I can remember it. It's like, I'm in a tie and I'm talking about scrapbooking. And they're like,
the tie days. Oh, that's a wild.
The owner was a great guy. The owner was a fantastic guy. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about, scrapbooking? He's got it scrapbooking. So it was scrapbooking, and I was like, it's like, we think there's a lot of interest in it, and people really like it. And so he ultimately gave us a shot to do that, to do a scrapbook store kind of in an old classroom in the back of one of our stores. And it was really successful. So we ended up launching, at one time we had 10 scrapbook stores that were like,
wow,
4,000 to 6,000-ish square feet each one.
Big.
Yeah. So it was fun. And I always wanted to live out west. And so, I made a lot of, because I was a buyer like you.
Yeah.
Nina, I like, you are the Elon Musk of the craft industry because you have so many jobs. Right?
I do. My husband's like, can you try not to have any more jobs? I'm like, oh, I have this new idea. And he's like, no.
Pocket. Yeah, so when we were in Frankfurt at the trade show there.
I don't know what's happening. What's coming?
No, you tell them, you tell me about the podcast idea. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Well, don't you already own a store, own a buying group, and then have 4 kids and...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and we're going to do a podcast. And it's like, okay.
This is fun.
This is the passion project.
Yeah,
this is the fun where you get to interact and really see what's going on.
True. Yes. And an excuse to travel.
No. Yes. Or on location.
Yeah.
So I had an opportunity to, so I was a buyer. So I had, we bought from like 200 different companies, and we had 10,000 SKUs in the store. And so I opened up the Rolodex, and I always wanted to move out west. So I started calling some companies, and a lot of the scrapbook companies were in Utah, California, maybe a couple in Arizona and stuff. But so I ended up moving to California, working for Sizzix was the first time. So it was actually Ellison as the company. Sizzix was a partnership between Ellison and Provercraft at the time, and it had just launched. So they had, if you've been around, this is before your
I know the
before your time. Before you were born, they had this machine that was a press machine.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
So
you don't know the crank machine?
yeah, no, it was just it was just a press. It was just a press. It was like your arm
It's a
wrestling.
crank machine, but because you had to like.
Yeah. So it was a press machine and steel roll dies, and that was it. So they had just
Things people were trying to sell at the flea market. Yeah.
So when I started there, that was it. That was all that they had. They had just launched it, and
What did you end up doing there? Like, how did you get your foot in the door and get what were you doing?
Great question. So it was a family-owned business. I loved family-owned businesses, and I love small businesses. I've always ever worked for small businesses. There's just something about them, like me. It's a labor of passion, right? Yeah. So I went to work there. Family-owned business. Kristen was the granddaughter of the founders. So the founders had retired, and their whole history was in education. So they had only sold to schools, So all the Ellison equipment was in schools, and the partnership between Ellison and Provercraft was really about a retail product that they'd never done before. So nobody even knew what really like a UPC was or how to do packaging and stuff. So I just, being a buyer, being in retail for 15 years before that, I just brought my scrapbooking knowledge to the business, and then retail and understanding how do you market to retail stores, and then it kind of evolved into marketing, licensing, and then I work closely with Kevin. Kevin.
Yeah.
So Kevin's still there. And so he was kind of the R&D, and I was the marketing, branding, kind of product development. So R&D, he actually drew CAD designs and stuff, and I would go to him with new product ideas, and we would facilitate from the users. We would ask people hey, what the heck do you want to do? And
that's why we're always texting Denzel.
that's right. Yeah. What do you want to do? And we figured out how to make it happen.
Well, because those machines that were in the schools, too, from Ellison were ginormous. They were huge,
40 pounds.
Yeah. 40. So imagine, having that, you couldn't fit that in your crafter.
You couldn't.
Especially in California.
No, so before Sizzix, so if you think about, die cutting's been around for hundreds of years, right? So what they did is Ellison in the 70s, they downsized it to be a tabletop device that you could use in a classroom. So when I was the buyer back at the Core Camera, our scrapbook stores would have those big machines in the stores, and we'd have dies for people to use.
Yeah.
So you come in, you buy your paper, and then you could use the die cut machines. And then when they launched the consumer machine, it's okay, that was,
Buy your own machine.
Yeah, buy your own machine. Do it at your home. So
Ruin your own plates.
ruin your own place. Yeah.
All right, can you tell our besties what your favorite product is that you designed when you were at Sizzix, or a project that you were a part of that was the best for you?
Well, there's so many. So because there was nothing before that, right?
Right.
So there was no, we had the press machine, which was cool, but it was difficult to use. So we came out with the Big Shot. I actually named the Big Shot.
You named the Big Shot?
Work with Kevin and the Big Shot, and then we had the Sidekick, and then
I love the Sidekick.
and then the Tim Holtz one. One of my funnest stories is the Tim Holtz Vagabond. The Tim Holtz Vagabond.
Yes, I recently just kicked mine to the curb. I literally had a Vagabond for 15 years.
Yeah, they're a great machine.
Wow.
So the texture on that, we were having a hard time communicating to the factory, what kind of texture we want on it. So I was like, I know this exists. So I went out to a toy store. I went to back then Toys R Us.
Toys R Us. I was in Toys R Us, baby.
Yes, I'm sure. So I went to Toys R Us and I bought a plastic dinosaur. So because it had that texture on it, so I sent that to the factory. So the texture on the Tim Holtz Vagabond actually came from a dinosaur.
And that thing has so many different levels, and there's different color panels. There's the metallic part. I mean, there was a lot that went into the vagabond. Oh my god!
Oh, it was cool. It was a really cool machine. It was such a cool machine.
Mine kicked the bucket. I used it a lot.
Aesthetically, it just looked. It was cool, and it, like with Tim, Tim, I think of Ellison. There were, I want to say there were 3 or 4 guys and 50 women in the office, right? So it's like when we got to do something with Tim, it was extra cool being a guy, And so,
because you're into that.
It's the grunge.
Similar aesthetic, the grunge, like not all pristine and perfect.
Right, yeah. So that was fun. I mean, the texture coming from a dinosaur, I always thought that was kind of a fun story.
That is. What some tea there.
The big shot. We did not know that. Brought to you guys on the pod. That's amazing. Okay, so you made the trek from Sizzix to Spellbinders. So you were with Sizzix for a long time.
I was there for 12 years. Yeah. So we did a lot. So we saw a lot, so we went from the press machine to the big shot, and then we had kind of a sibling of the big shot called the Big Kick that we sold at chain stores. And the big shot was for independent retailers. And then the Big Kick had kind of gone away, and we launched the Sidekick. And so we went from steel roll dies to etch dies and did both. And then we did embossing. And then we did one of my favorite products that we ever did. You'll probably remember. You remember the paddle punch?
No.
So it was this punch. So it was steel roll blade in... So, like a punch, like a paper punch, you can only punch like on the edge of a piece of paper, right? Yeah. So this was, it was a long arm, and it had a plastic thing on the end of it. And then it had like steel wool blade bent into a shape of, a snow cone or dog or cat or whatever, all these decorative ornamental shapes. And you could put it any place, and then you had a special hammer that you hammered it.
Oh, I remember hammering things.
It was so cool.
I remember hammering eyelets.
Eyelets, you could use the hammer for. But the paddle punch, I thought was really cool. Commercially, it didn't do great.
Not so cool.
But it was around for a few years. But we did so many innovative, fun things then. And it was just really blast. It was great people. I loved my time there. Kevin is still there. He and I see each other at trade shows and things. And so, really good people. And the family, so it was the owners, the founders had retired, and their daughter, Lisa, was my boss. So she was the CEO, and she was like a mother figure to me. And, when I was working there in 2007 when my mom passed away, and Lisa was just, the kindest, most compassionate person you'd ever meet, and just really meant a lot to me. And, she would bring me in her office, and I'll tear up. But, she was just a wonderful person. And her daughter, Kristen, and I were, great friends. And that's really why I moved from Ohio to California, because Kristen was just a good person, too. So great people all around.
I know. There's so many. That's my favorite part about being in the craft industry is there's so many amazing people.
There is.
Like, meeting people at shows, and people you wouldn't meet just over the phone and so on. So
even like, so my last name is Quick, so at trade shows, everybody thought I owned Quick Cuts. I was actually with Sizzix. and Eric and the guys that were at Quick Cuts, it was a little confusing and stuff, because there were times where we actually, Quick Cuts, the people at Quick Cuts were fantastic too. And so even though they were technically competitors, we taught classes to retailers together. So it was like Sizzix and Quick Cuts would teach classes together to retailers on how to do business, because back then there were a lot of startup stores and nobody knew about how to manage their inventory and all that. So we did a lot of business classes and stuff together with them. So it was really fun.
That is fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us about your transition to Spellbinders in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, yeah. So, again, I'd been there for 12 years. I'd done a lot of different things with the team, and it was just time to move on and do something different. And I love Arizona. I didn't know a lot about Arizona. I knew that it was cheaper to live in Arizona than what's the.
That's very true. It's tough when we're at.
Yeah. So no, but I love I love my time at Sizzix, and then when I came to Spellbinders had just been purchased by what's called a private equity company, and the private equity company, and so like in the industry, private equity companies got kind of a bad rap, deservedly in many cases, because they would come in and buy companies and then got them, and the companies ended up folding or going out of business and stuff. So private equity companies in general didn't have a real good reputation. But I hit it off with the new. So Jeff and Stacy, we got to back up to. I missed that whole connection. So Spellbinders was started by Stacy Curran, and many people still know Stacy. We still get lots of people asking about Stacy. So back in my photo days, back in Ohio, Stacy was actually one of our best customers in the scrapbook stores in the 90s. Oh. So it's full circle. It's a small industry. It's a small industry. So she ended up, she started Spellbinders with her husband, and they moved to Arizona. They moved to Phoenix, and so it was just interesting. We would see them at trade shows and stuff, and so I knew her, and we were also we were competitors, but we were very good friends. And so she was a great lady and stuff, and a lot of admiration for Stacy. She's the reason I'm here today talking to you guys. Started the company.
Thank you, Stacy. We appreciate you.
And so she they had just sold the company to this REF, a private equity company, and they hired a new president. And he and I met at a trade show, and I just left Sizzix, and so I called him up and I said, hey, his name was Greg, and Greg was a great guy. And I said, I'm not doing anything right now. I said, I'm not sure, I like Arizona, if you guys ever need anybody or anything, just let me know. And he said, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, nothing. And he goes, I'll be there tomorrow. Meet me at this restaurant by the airport. I was like, okay. So he flew in and we met, and we talked for a while. And I was real hesitant about private equity company. And he told me, because I told him, I'd only ever worked for family-owned businesses, and I said, I'm not really into that thing. And he assured me that they were a different kind of company. And I'm here 10 years later, and they are a different kind of company. And so, I ended up, me and my wife, we ended up moving here, and Spellbinder, it was going through a change, going from a small family-owned business to being owned by a private equity company. You have to step up the professionalism, the processes and all of that kind of stuff. And so we had some growing pains and stuff, but we started to evolve and change and have a bigger vision and stuff. And the last, so the first couple of years, there was a lot of transition. Man, the last 5-6 years, it's just been the best of my life. I mean, the team we have here is fun. You guys met them.
So I have to say, in the past 3 to 5 years, the products have been phenomenal. Like, I love Spellbinders dies, and as most people know, I am a 12 by 12 girl, and I use them on my scrapbook layouts. Like, the quality, you can tell the difference. Like, the dies are such high quality. The embossing folders, like, everything's really changed in the past couple of years.
Yep.
And you guys make your stuff here?
We make as much as we can here. All of our stamps are made domestically. But then dies, you really can't. I mean, it's extremely expensive to make them domestically. It would be like 3 times the amount.
Right.
So we do have a factory that makes our dies in China. The guy there I have known for over 20 years, the guy that runs that factory.
Oh, wow.
He's actually Taiwanese, great guy. He will be at the show in New Orleans.
Can't wait to meet
you will meet him. So he's a great guy. And so we do dies mostly or all of our dies are in China. We do some things as much as we can in Vietnam, as much as we can in the U.S. And then we also do some things in Europe with like our paper. Some of our papers and stuff come from Europe and all over. So so we just try to find. We don't necessarily say, we'd like to do as much as we can in the U.S. or in Europe, but we really try to go after wherever we find the best quality.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we try to work around, figure out the pricing on that. So quality to us, we made that commitment many years ago, and it's like quality is going to win the day in the end. So, and I'm glad that you noticed that as a consumer.
100%. Like, I don't own a store. I just craft. Like, I'm just a crafter. I'm nobody here, guys. I just like to craft. So you can really tell the quality changes in the past couple of years, which is really refreshing.
Yeah.
And also, you had a big hand in one of the newest and best products of the year, right?
Yeah. So so.
Oh, we have one. I was like, pick it up. The BetterPress.
Letterpress. This is the BetterPress. Letterpress has been around. I think it was invented in 1492 or something like that. Like maybe even before that. But it's been around since the 1400s or so, and it's always required this massive machine. And to do it properly. Mm-hmm. And then I talked about Quick Cuts. Quick Cuts evolved into lifestyle crafts and stuff. And they had a letterpress device that was a clever idea, but it was very messy. Mm-hmm. So it was, so it required a brayer and
oh man,
I
had one of those.
And so if you wanted to make one card, you're going to end up with stuff on your nose and everywhere, your clothes, whatever. So my goal was to make this as clean, as simple, as easy as possible with, from a consumer, from a user's perspective, right? So you want to make this as easy as possible, as mess-free as possible, and to be able to replicate and do registration and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So we worked on this for quite a while. We had a lot of other things going on. And, I have to give a lot of credit to a lot of other people, too. And in particular, Josie, you got...
Shout out to Josie. Love you, girl. Love you, girl. I call everyone my bestie, but Spellbinders is my bestie.
So Josie, her and I worked on this, her from a design perspective, because she would say, I want to do this intricate design, or, this is kind of detail I want. And she would buy me when I was working on this, it was a lot of fun. It's a labor of love. But every year for Christmas, she would buy me these calendars, desk calendars. That's a letterpress. That's
cute.
And so it's kind of like rubbing it in my face.
Get it done. Hurry up. Get this to the printer. So many years.
Oh, this took a long, long time. I don't even want to talk. But so
I don't even. Well, because I got a sneak peek at a prototype. No, it launched in June, the November before.
No.
Yeah.
You're so cute.
It was cute. It was.
So Josie actually, I had an idea in my head for many years of how to do it. And then Josie, when I came here, Josie was at Spellbinders and then she left. And then, so for the first couple of years, she wasn't here. And when she came back, when we hired her back, I was talking to her. So this was probably 2016 or so. Josie says to me, we're talking about new ideas, new product launches. And so if you remember, I got to put a pause on that, put a pin in it. I'll come back to it. So the Spellbinders machine was the Grand Caliber machine, had a thin, narrow opening.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So right. So we knew that if we wanted to do other things like hot foiling, like letterpress, we had to open up that dimension for the opening. So we discontinued when I got here, we discontinued the Grand Caliber. We made the Platinum, which has a larger opening, and then we launched Platinum 6, which is the same large opening but narrower. And so that allowed us to do more things. So with this narrow opening, with the small gap, you can only really do die cutting. You can't put a device like this in it. So that took us a couple years to get there to where we could even launch this. So I was talking with Josie, and she said, we were talking about new product ideas, and she said, oh, I wanted to do some letterpress stuff. And I was like, yeah, I have this idea. And she goes, I have a box of samples of prototypes. And so she went rummaging around someplace in a back room that had been sitting there for a couple of years. Okay. And she had these letterpress plates that were beautiful. The amount of detail was, and I was like, that's what we want to do. But the plates were too thin, so you couldn't actually make them work really well, because when the plates are too thin, you get ink everywhere. And so the detail was there. So we had to find the right combination of detail. So you have to hold the paper in a position, and then you have to hold the plate in a position, and you have to ink the paper up, and you have to have the right thickness. And so there's like this magic combination that, it seems really
But as
simple.
a consumer, it's just real easy. You just pop the plate in, put the ink in, and roll it through. Like, it's great. I love it. I mean, I mentioned before, I made 70 wedding thank yous, and it was multi-layered with the BetterPress.
I did look very impressive.
It was many layers, and it looked stunning. And people were like, oh my God, you made it? And I was like, yes. It took forever.
We made it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just so, I love that there's no learning curve.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
It's super easy.
There's nothing to do but just ink and roll. Yeah. And it's so innovative. Like, it's just, I think it belongs in every person's craft room. But
I mean, so when I was here, you guys had already made it. It was this. Yeah, you had made it, and it was like the prototype here. And
Right.
Nicole's like, what do you think about this? And I was like, can I have one? I want one now. But she's like, they're launching in the summer.
We had no idea how well it would do. I thought it would do well, but, I didn't know if there was a lot of people out there that, like, remembered the lifestyle thing that had the mess. And I was afraid that people would equate this with being messy. But, when we got it in the hands of people and they did videos and stuff, and people
at NAMTA, that was like the best thing at NAMTA. Like, all the retailers got one in their class.
Yeah.
What? And they taught us how to use it. And then pounce and pivot.
Well, and then also coming soon, can we talk about the new ink? The new ink size? You can talk about one. There's a new ink.
No. Can't spell all the tea. Well, yeah, because that's coming out April 1st.
Yeah, so there's a new, larger ink pad for the black. It's so great. It's a full ink size pad.
We did. How long did we ask for that, though?
I was like, my hand, guys, is about to fall off of this tiny ink pad.
The truth be told, we all my prototypes. So we get the ink from Ranger. So like 4 years ago or something, I was talking with Alan at Ranger, and I was like, hey, we're working on this thing. We're getting close. We'd love to do inks with you guys. And he's like, oh, okay, give me a call when you're ready. And so like a year later, I go to him, and I'm like, okay, we're still working on this thing. And so I think he thought I was pulling his leg. And but so he sent us. So when we were working on the inks, so the inks are thicker, so they have a higher viscosity and stuff. Mm-hmm. All the inks were in those big ink pads. And so we were using them on big designs, and they were fine. It was like, okay, this is cool. Yeah. And then we got a couple prototypes. Josie designed some smaller things. We got some smaller prototypes, and I was using those, and I was like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
So it's hard to use on a small design.
Yeah. Right. So like the skeleton one for Halloween, like those are super small. The Christmas little tag ones are super small.
Yeah, but the mandala, those big plates.
Now you have a full plate.
Yana's flower one.
Right.
Oh my God, that's going to be so great.
Yeah. Oh, the one that has that backdrop that's set in.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
I'm so excited for that.
It's kind of the negative.
The negative. Yeah. It looks stunning. Cool. I saw her do
I ordered so many of them. I can't. But I'm like, I can't wait for the full-size ink pad to get here.
Yes, I think that full-size ink is going to change the game for those big plates.
It will. So, but we didn't want what we didn't want people to do, because if you use the big plates on a small pad, you have a bad experience.
Right.
Yes, so we wanted to get it out there, get the learning underway. So people said, oh, I have a good experience, but I like a big ink pad. So.
Well, yeah, everyone's successful out the gate. Yeah, right? Unlike my friend over there with the glimmer machine.
Oh, glimmer was so hard. I took kids class too. I was like, man, this
You did the
tough.
boot camp?
I did the boot camp. I was there, like, glimmering away. I was like, I'm going to stick to BetterPress. I just learned that I like die cutting and I like BetterPress.
No, what did we say? Convenience.
Oh yeah, I'm a
Convenience.
I'm a convenience crafter. I will pay to play. Okay.
When you get a good when you get a good glimmer, it's beautiful.
It's awesome. I cannot argue with that. I've seen some really phenomenal techniques, but man, yeah. So, tell us, is there anything you can talk to us about that's coming up soon that you're working on? Oh, see, this is nice. Well, you're going to be at NAMTA with us, right?
I'm going to be at NAMTA. It's actually next week. Yeah. We were out there talking, and it's like, yeah.
See you next week. He's like, what?
Next week.
Oh, man.
Are you coming back? You're like, no, I'll be in New Orleans. So,
yeah.
That's fun.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so, after that, I could.
Okay, all right. Stay tuned.
We do have a lot of good stuff coming up. Every month we do product launches. So we'll do a little bit here, a little bit there, and we try to stay relevant and product launches every month. And like I said, Josie and the team, and they just do an amazing job. And we're really. I know the Weekender when people are going to be able to see the Weekender and all the holiday stuff.
Yeah, and you can sign up for the Weekender through the Creative Escape link down below.
Yeah. Right? Is that you always want to point out the pop-up?
Yeah.
Do you remember a pop-up video on VH1? Do you remember that?
Oh, back in the day. She's such a baby.
Sorry, guys.
They would play music videos, and they would do these little pop-up bubbles with whatever they thought would be funny.
It was funny.
MTV was cool when I was in school.
They played videos.
MTV was a thing, and we didn't really watch videos. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. Oh, crazy. Okay, so no tea.
No tea. Tea's coming soon. Tea's coming soon. I'll see you at the trade show. See you at the trade show. I'll be walking around.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, that's good.
You'll do that. You'll have a little trade show tea.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, it's my first trade show, so I'm excited to see what it's like as a normal person.
We have some exciting stuff. Obviously, you guys. I love the podcast too. By the way, thank you both for doing this. It's something that's needed in the industry. I never ever thought I would be a podcast person, and I don't have cable anymore. I don't have, I only do podcasts. Really, I'll watch some YouTube stuff, but I really listen to podcasts. I love them. It's a great way of getting information, and I love the authenticity of a podcast. It's like, it's real people talking about real things. You feel like you're in the conversation.
We're definitely real here.
Yeah. The realist.
Keep it real. We keep it real, baby. So,
there's nothing, what do you call it? Polished.
Nothing polished. No, very raw.
Yes.
Right? So, but we have stuff planned all summer long. We have new products like every month and some big products that I can't quite talk about yet. But you guys, with your format, with this medium, I hope it's a huge hit because
we do too.
Because it's needed to keep communication going about what's new and let everybody in the whole community know. So
we're really excited. Thank you for being our first interview.
It's an honor, and I'm over the moon about being the first. And
it's crazy.
You guys are terrific.
Well, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah.
Have you back? You mean we'll come back?
Yeah, we have to fly back.
Not in the summer.
Super nice setup.
Not in the summer.
Yeah. This will be a winter experience.
Yeah.
Fall, spring, winter. Spring training.
Spring training, tough week.
And NASCAR and spring break.
Yeah.
We did pick the
rabbits. Yeah, you thought Phoenix Airport was the center of the universe today.
Yeah,
it's a lot of people there.
It was a lot of people this morning.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Happy crafting, everybody.
Happy crafting.